Hey, what's going on with shipping? Sal Mercogliano out in the Atlantic Ocean right now. Thought I'd do a special episode, the first of a couple, talking about what does a former merchant mariner do to prepare for a cruise. Going to be doing another video on safety on board the ship, and then another one on the state of the cruise ship industry in 2025. But this video will take a look at how did I prepare to come on this cruise. Now, I will note that this was not a cruise I would have chosen for myself. My son and his buddies wanted to go on a cruise, so we were dealing with other families and what they could afford. So we find ourselves on a cruise that I typically probably would not have booked for myself. But regardless, there are certain things I do before I go on a cruise ship that I like to do to give me kind of a heads up, and also things that I prepare as I get on the ship. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to go inside, get out of the wind here. Had a little comment about my other video the other day about the wind noise. Some people does not like the wind in the background. This is what going to sea is all about. All right, we're on the other side of the door here. So we're inside our stateroom. I actually got a balcony here. I typically don't get a balcony on a ship because I don't mind an inside cabin. It's nice and dark. And I spend most of my time out on deck anyway. But on this cruise ship, it's a really loud one. The balcony actually pays off here quite a bit. But two things I look at before I go on a cruise ship. And again, there are plenty of videos out there from people who do nothing but cruise ships. And you can follow them and get some great information on this. This is more of a very kind of deep dive in for me. One of the things I like to do is go to the CDC site. This is the Center for Disease Control. They actually publish the inspection records on their vessels. They're doing these inspections. Now, they're talking about ending these, and I hope they don't, because CDC inspections are really good. I mean, this is the health of the vessel. So you may remember before COVID, the thing always was norovirus and all those other communicable diseases. It's one thing that people get a lot of anxiety about going on ships. I find the CDC results very helpful. The other thing I like to do is go look at the U.S. Coast Guard port state control inspections. Now, there's a website called EQUIS. Now, you have to register for the website, but it doesn't cost you anything. But EQUIS shows you the port state control inspections for this vessel. So the ship I am on right now, for example, had a port state control, had two of them fairly recently, and they came out pretty good. However, there was one a few years ago where they found some deficiencies, 10 to be exact, and a lot of them had to do with safety, fire, and abandoned ship. And that got my concerns up. And so one of the things I started thinking about was, okay, how do I prepare to go on a ship that's had a kind of a mixed track record? It wasn't just one prior safety problem either. There were a series of them on board. So one of the things I noticed about this ship was when you come on board a vessel, there is the obvious lifeboat drill and all the safety measures that have to be taken. And I will say this, it was a bit lax on this ship. I was not very happy with it at all. Basically, all it involved was one person from the stateroom going to report to their muster station and then watching a video on the screen, which is fairly typical. But I have to say, if an emergency does happen, there is nobody on this ship that is prepared for what happens. So a couple of things I like to do in choosing, for example, staterooms. I like to be in the middle deck. I like to be about midway from the bottom of the vessel to the top of the vessel for a couple of reasons. Number one, I like using stairs. I'm not a big fan of elevators on ships. So by being in the middle deck, I'm on deck 7 on this trip. It gives me a good potential to go up and down stairs. I'm pretty mobile. I like going up and down stairs. It works really good. We're a little bit forward on this ship. If you have issues, for example, with seasickness, best spot for you is midships and low. That's where you kind of want to be. The higher you are up in the ship, the more rocking motion you get. Closer to the bow, you get the pitching motion. Stern, you kind of get the props and a little bit more vibration. About midway through is where you want to be. But really important that you take a few moments when you get on board a vessel and go through the safety procedures that are on the vessel. Number one, know where your muster station is. Really important to know where your muster station is so that if there is an emergency, you know where to go. For us, it's down in the forward theater. Really important. The other thing is life jackets. Life jackets on some ships will not be in the staterooms. They'll be out in bins and lockers along the deck. In this ship, we have our life jackets in one of our closets here. So it's really important to know where those life jackets are, be familiar with them. There are instructions here on how to don and put them on. But take a moment and know that, in particularly, know that if you have small children with you, you grab their life jackets and be able to do it. Very important that you know this. Have your life jackets, know where to get them, and if they're not in your room, be cognizant of where they are around the ship. Now, it's interesting to note on this ship, the lifeboat deck is off limits to personnel. On a lot of boats you go on, or ships you go on, sorry, what my son and I always call cruise ships boats. When a lot of ships you go on, the lifeboat decks are accessible. You can go to them. And I will tell you another deep, dark secret people don't like to tell you about is that there are not enough lifeboats for all the passengers on board. Believe it or not, the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, which is SOLAS, which was created after the Titanic sank, there is not a requirement that there are enough lifeboats for everybody on board. There isn't. The requirement is for 75%, with half being on the port side, half being on the starboard side. The deficiency, the other 25%, is made up with life rafts. And if you've never seen life rafts opened up on a cruise ship and how to get in them, watch this video right here. You will enjoy it. It's great. It prepares you for it. It's amazing that, over 100 years after the sinking of Titanic, we're in a position where we're jacking and rosing this on this. And let's be 100% clear here. Rose killed Jack. Killed him, would not let him on that raft. On that board. She killed him on there. And on a modern cruise ship, that's the way it exists. Also be clear, if you have to get on a lifeboat on a ship, and we'll talk about this during the emergency procedures, you're not going to enjoy this. This is not going to be an enjoyable procedure, and we'll talk about that. All right, packing for a cruise, a lot of procedures of how to pack for a cruise. The cruise lines would typically give you what to bring on a cruise. It also depends on where you're going, what the weather's going to be like. We're on a Caribbean cruise, so we can pack very light, shorts and t-shirts and of course my floral shirts. So you can pack fairly light. If you're going on an Alaskan cruise, that's all different. But some unique things I always like to bring with me. Flashlights. I always bring flashlights with me. I put a little flashlight, a different size flashlights. I'll always have one in my pocket or hooked to something with me. Now, not so much an issue today because everybody's phone has a light on them and most phones can be linked into systems on the ship, but always good to have a light. If for any reason power goes off on a ship, it gets dark really quick. So really important about that. The other thing too is if you ever see water leaking on a ship, there's that video of water pouring in and it's like, oh, it's like the Titanic. You are way above the water line. You are not sinking. You're not flooding. That's a water pipe that's broken. That's all that is. So you don't have to worry about sinking. Nearly every cruise ship you go on, you're above the water line. The exceptions of that would be perhaps some of the expedition ships, smaller cruise ships, and some of the river cruise ships where you may be right at the water line, but you will not probably be below the water line. So you will see that at times. The other thing I bring with me, which is going to sound really strange, are bags, plastic bags. And ironically, while I'm on this cruise, Netflix is running a special on a Carnival cruise ship, the Carnival Triumph, back in 2013, what is known as the Poop Cruise. So one of the most unique things on cruise ships are the bathrooms, the heads. By the way, the reason we call them heads is because on the old days of sail ships, you would go up to the head. The head is the big figurehead up in the front of the ship to go do your business. So back in 2013, Carnival Triumph had an engine room fire, and it was catastrophic. It actually burnt out the electrical distribution system, so there was no power on board. They lost all power. If you ever use a toilet on a ship, you'll notice it's a vacuum toilet. It doesn't use water to evacuate the contents of the bowl. It creates a negative suction, and that requires power, so that when the power goes out, the toilet goes out. Now, you can get rid of your number one very easily. That's called the shower. There are drains in the shower. It'll go down. It all goes the same. All wastewater goes to the same places. It's just your toilet goes to a treatment facility that deals with heavier waste. That's the key. The reason for the plastic bags is so that you can number two in them. I know this is gross. I apologize. But I always bring plastic bags with me just in case. That's what happened on board the Triumph. The Triumph had an issue, and the point was people just started becoming Lord of the Flies, losing it. And so you had a breakdown in the vessel on board. So really important to bring those with you should there ever be. If you do lose power on a ship, do not just use a toilet and shut the lid. It's gross, number one. But second, it's something that I do because I actually did this before that ever happened. Because I've actually been on ships where we've lost power before and had issues associated with that. Another thing I'll bring with me, especially when my son was younger, is a portable flotation device, a PFD, one of the strap ones that can inflate. If you are going on and off the vessel a lot, and I'm going to talk about this in my next video where I talk about safety, especially on launches that are not operated by the vessel, you're using commercial launches from the ports you're going to, those can be really sketchy at times. And you tend not to have safety briefs, and they will have life jackets on them, but no telling where the life jackets are and what kind of condition they are. They have these little belt PFDs that you can buy. You can stick them in your bag. You can pop them on around your waist, especially for smaller kids when you're going on and off ships should something happen. And again, it's a little bit over maybe precaution, but if something does happen, it's great to have them. I'm going to talk a little bit more about them in my next video. Another thing I like to do on the first day is get the lay of the ship. Really take time to walk the ship. Number one, it's great. You're going to eat so much food, you're going to gain weight. So one of the things is steps. Take as many steps as you can. And I like to get to the top of the vessel and work my way down, bow to stern, down each deck, and figuring out where everything is in case of an emergency. Now, one of the things you will notice on ships is all the doors shut automatically. They're shut and they're heavy doors. Now, all the doors are fireproof doors. They're designed to contain fires. The biggest danger on ships is fire, principally in your stateroom, because most modern cruise ships were not designed for the electrical load that they're drawing on right now. You are coming, especially if you have kids, a ton of electrical load. Will notice every now and then just a few outlets in your room. That's because they never really configured themselves for all the electrical demand. So when you bring every iPad and everything else that needs to be charged, that can create a big problem. And matter of fact, it's a really good idea not to leave everything plugged in when you leave the room. Matter of fact, some cruise lines have taken to outlaw those outlets that allow you to plug in multiple devices. I also like to make sure that I download a couple of apps on my phone so that when you go on the cruise, you will look much smarter than everybody else. So my favorite is Marine Traffic. I use it all the time on the show. It shows you what ships are around. Want to look smart? Go ahead, pull up your Marine Traffic app, find out what that ship is off the starboard side, and you can sit there and say, oh, I think that's a container ship of such and such lines heading between here and there, and they'll look at you like you're a genius. Again, it's not always a question of being smarter, it's just being well-read ahead of time. The second one I do is Cruise Mapper, and Cruise Mapper is great because Cruise Mapper has just cruise ships. It's kind of like Marine Traffic just for cruise ships. But more importantly, it has information on all the vessels. So that if you're thinking about going on a cruise, you can pull the vessel information up. It's got deck plans, it's got itineraries, it's got history of the ship, background on the ship, and you can really follow all the issues regarding an individual ship or shipping company. If you pull it up on your phone, you get information. If you pull it up on a computer, it's even more information that you can pull up on it and track. It's a really good one, especially has all the itineraries on there so that you can take a look at it. You can pull up ports and see what other cruise ships will be in when you're loading and disembarking or going in for a port visit so that you can have an idea how busy the ports are you're going. Finally, one of my favorite things to do is to bring this book with me every time I go on a cruise and reread it. And it's an enjoyable book. It talks about the history of the cruise ship industry. It only goes up to about 2000, so it's a little dated, but it really talks about the wild times of the setup of the cruise industry. And it is absolutely a great, great read. I mean, when you read about the likes of Mickey Aronson, who founds Carnival, Princess Lines, the Love Boat. I mean, you name it. It is great. It is a fun read about the history and background on cruise ships. So I hope this little video helped you a little bit as you think about going on a ship. That CDC site is great as always. The Port State Control gives you a good idea because there's some cruise ships out there that, you know, if you had a choice, probably you shouldn't go on. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit the super thanks button down below or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Again, 2 more episodes coming out. One on what to do in case of an emergency on board a cruise ship, and the second, the state of the cruise industry in 2025. This is Sal from the Atlantic Ocean saying, talk to you soon.